Remember the first time you sneaked a cigarette behind the pub or caught a whiff of that unmistakable smoke on a summer beach? Australia used to have cigarette brands that weren't just smokes. They were a part of everyday life. Today, we're lighting up memories of 10 vanished cigarette brands only true Aussies remember. From bold, full-strength classics to smooth, stylish favourites, get ready to take a puff from the past. Astor launched in the 1950s. Astor was Imperial Tobacco's play at sophistication in the Aussie market. The name alone sounded sleek, almost continental, and the glossy red and gold packets carried a whiff of glamour in a country where most smokes were blue-collar staples. Astor quickly carved out a reputation as a smooth, slightly refined cigarette, the kind you might find at a cocktail party in Melbourne, or tucked into the handbag of a woman heading to the races. Astor's flavour leaned toward the lighter side, with a polish finish that set it apart from the rougher blends of the time. By the 1970s, it was often marketed with a touch of aspirational flair, promising a smoke that was modern without being pretentious. Price-wise, Astor sat in the mid to upper range, making it accessible but never cheap. As Australian tastes shifted in the 80s and filtered imports became more dominant, Astor began to lose ground. By the early 90s, the brand had quietly disappeared from shelves, leaving behind a memory of cigarette chic that many older Aussies still recall with a nostalgic smile. Escort. If Astor was about polish, Escort was about fun. Introduced in the 1970s, Escort quickly became known as the social smoke. With its distinctive bright red and white packets, it stood out in the shop display and positioned itself as a youthful, lively alternative to more traditional brands. Escort was marketed heavily toward younger adults, with ad campaigns leaning into a cheeky, outgoing lifestyle. The taste was medium-bodied, not as harsh as some of the heavier smokes, but still with enough punch to feel satisfying. Many Aussies remember them as the cigarette you bought on a night out with friends, shared at a party, or sneaked at a school formal after-party. During its peak in the late 70s and early 80s, Escort became a common sight in suburban garages, uni campuses, and coastal towns. But like many cigarette brands tied to a younger generation, its popularity faded as that audience grew older and health awareness rose. By the 90s, Escort packs were becoming rare, and by the 2000s, the brand had all but vanished. Long Beach. Few brands scream Aussie cigarette quite like Long Beach. Launched in the late 1970s, Long Beach was positioned as the affordable, down-to-earth smoke for everyday Australians. The name itself evoked surf, sand, and easygoing coastal vibes, and the plain blue and white packaging made it instantly recognisable. Long Beach became a staple among working-class smokers who wanted something budget-friendly but still reliable. The cigarettes were mild to medium in taste, easy to smoke, and available in larger pack sizes that made them feel like good value for money. By the 1980s, Long Beach had become one of the most widely sold brands in Australia, often associated with tradies, truck drivers, and the laid-back beach crowd. But affordability came at a cost. As prices rose and regulations tightened, Long Beach gradually lost its dominance. By the 2000s, the brand had been stripped of much of its old identity, and as plain packaging laws came in, the nostalgic charm of the blue and white packs disappeared. Today, Long Beach lives on mostly in memory, a reminder of a time when a cheap smoke and a day at the beach seemed to go hand in hand. Craven A. Launched in the early 20th century, Craven A quickly made a name for itself as a smooth, polished smoke. The brand's bold red, white, and black packaging made it instantly recognisable, while the filter version positioned it as a slightly safer alternative to harsher, unfiltered smokes. Craven A was popular among middle-class Aussies, especially in urban centres like Sydney and Melbourne. The taste was mild yet satisfying, with a smooth draw that made it approachable for both new and seasoned smokers. Advertising often leaned into health-conscious messaging, ironic now, but effective at the time, presenting Craven A as a refined choice rather than a rough, working-class option. By the late 1980s, however, the brand's dominance waned. Changing tastes, rising health awareness, and increased competition meant Craven A gradually disappeared from shelves, leaving only the memory of its distinctive, polished smoke. Strand. Strand is remembered less for its popularity and more for its spectacular marketing failure. Launched in the late 1950s, Strand was meant to be sophisticated, urban and modern. Ads featured lone men walking through moody city streets, lighting a cigarette under jazz music with the tagline, "You're never alone with a Strand." Unfortunately, the public didn't see the brand as stylish. Instead of evoking cool independence, it came across as lonely and melancholic. Despite the sleek blue and white packs and medium-strength tobacco, Strand flopped almost immediately. Estimates suggest that less than 1% of smokers ever bought a pack. Within a year or two, the brand was pulled from shelves, cementing its place in advertising infamy rather than smoking fame. Strand remains a cautionary tale, a brand remembered not for taste, but for a marketing misstep that no Aussie smoker ever forgot. Woodbine. Woodbine wasn't just a cigarette. It was a British import that became a staple in Australia, especially during and after World War II. Launched in the late 19th century in the UK, Woodbine earned a reputation for strength, affordability and reliability, quickly becoming the smoke of choice for working-class Aussies. The cigarettes were unfiltered and strong, delivering a harsh, tar-heavy hit that left a lasting impression, not just on the lungs, but on fingers and clothing too. Woodbines were everywhere in the 40s, 50s and 60s, from army barracks to suburban pubs. The packs were simple, instantly recognisable, and a single cigarette could often be shared among mates in a pinch. By the 1980s, filtered and imported smokes began to dominate, and Woodbine's raw, uncompromising style fell out of favour. Production eventually ceased, leaving behind only memories of a cigarette that was tough, unpretentious, and quintessentially old school. Viscount. If Woodbine was about refinement, Viscount was about understated class. Launched in the 1960s, Viscount's minty, smooth flavour and mid-range price made it a popular choice among younger smokers and women who found harsher, full-strength blends too aggressive. The green and white packaging gave the brand a clean, fresh look, standing out against the darker, heavier designs of other popular smokes. Viscount became associated with sophistication without being pretentious. The cigarette of choice for city cafes, uni campuses, and after-work drinks. However, as menthols and flavoured cigarettes fell out of favour and new regulations hit in the late 1980s and 1990s, Viscount gradually disappeared from stores. For many older Aussies, the memory of Viscount evokes a smooth, easygoing smoke and a bygone era of Australian youth culture. Capstan Full Strength. Capstan Full Strength was not for the faint-hearted. Known for its high nicotine content and unfiltered, robust hit, Capstan was a favourite among working-class Aussies who wanted a cigarette that packed a punch. The brand, with its Navy-inspired imagery, evoked strength and reliability. It was often found in the pockets of dock workers, tradies and sailors, the kind of smoke that demanded respect. The short, stubby cigarettes delivered a bold, tar-heavy hit that left a lasting impression from the very first puff. By the 1970s and 1980s, health campaigns and the rise of filtered cigarettes made Capstan less appealing to new generations. While the brand lingered in niche markets for some time, its heyday passed, leaving behind only memories of a strong, unapologetic smoke that separated the men from the boys. Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson was a staple in the Australian smoking scene for decades, known for its strong, no-nonsense appeal. Launched mid-20th century, it quickly became synonymous with working-class smokers who wanted a dependable, robust smoke. The cigarettes were often unfiltered, with a full-bodied, tar-heavy hit that hit the throat hard, the kind of smoke that left a lasting impression. Peter Jackson packets were simple, easy to spot, and often seen tucked into shirt pockets or handbags, ready for a quick puff on the go. In the 1970s and 1980s, Peter Jackson remained a reliable choice for tradies, dock workers, and anyone who wanted a bold smoke without fuss. But as health campaigns gained traction and filtered cigarettes became the norm, Peter Jackson gradually disappeared from stores, leaving only memories of a cigarette that was strong, straightforward, and unmistakably Australian. Cambridge. Cambridge carved out a niche as a lighter, more refined alternative to the stronger brands dominating Aussie shelves. Launched in the 1960s, it quickly became popular among urban smokers seeking a smoother, more approachable cigarette. The packs were crisp and clean, often with minimalist design elements that suggested modernity and sophistication. Cambridge's medium-bodied smoke made it a favourite among office workers, students, and those who wanted a mild puff without compromising flavour. As trends shifted in the 1980s and health awareness grew, Cambridge began to fade from prominence. While once a symbol of subtle class and smooth taste, by the 1990s it had quietly disappeared from the market, remembered today primarily by those who smoked it during their younger, carefree years. And that's our trip down memory lane through Australia's vanished cigarette brands. From the bold hits of Peter Jackson to the smooth sophistication of Cambridge, these were smokes that defined a generation. If this brought back a memory of your first cheeky puff behind the pub, or a pack tucked in your backpack, give it a like, share your favourite brand in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more blasts from the past. Until next time, keep the memories burning.